Hello? Oh, don't do this to me. Don't make bug. Oh, thank God. Okay, listen. Hi. Am I late? Yes. Am I like about 23 minutes late? Also, yes. But I promise you, it wasn't necessarily all my fault. Because for some fucking reason, I tried to do my, what do you call it? My Ricey Reacts. And I think, and I know I had an update recently, but damn, like it updated everything. But anyway, that's beside the point because we are going to be reacting to a video that has been on my mind. This video, I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast with Abby, but I need you guys to see it because I have a lot of opinions. And maybe Disney will take this video down, but we'll see. We're going to see how it goes. Oh, let me, you know what? That's fine. So, well, gonna hide that top bar. There we go. So, as I was saying, this video is titled Defending Every Disney Princess Except Tiana, which is going to be very interesting. I cannot wait to hear it. By Better with Bob, who is the one who is narrating this video. Why am I way up? My VTuber, why are you like this? Why am I like this? Why is this happening? Why are all the things that happens to be happening is happening? I don't know. Let's jump in.
I feel like this video needs no context or introduction because, borrowing from one of the chapters that will come up later, this is a tale as old as time, but really just under 20.
Okay, hold on. Pause for just a second. Give me just a second. I'll be right back. 1 second. Okay, sorry. I didn't realize that my fan was off. It got really, really hot. Where am I? There I am. Okay, going back in.
Years or so.
Do people assume all your problems got solved because a big strong man showed up?
I make no secret of the fact that I have nothing but loathing for the variety of bad faith criticism that exploded onto the internet in the late 2000s. The Cracked.com articles whose comedy was always mean-spirited and only occasionally onto something. The Channel Awesome videos featuring bitter Gen Xers complaining that their hands weren't being held throughout the entire movie. The feminist frequency content full of research mistakes.
I will say this. I do believe, like, he has a bit of a point, especially with, like, media literacy. I feel like we have a problem with media literacy unless literally something is someone is holding your hand to describe what's going on. Like, I'm not gonna lie, he's got a few points there for sure.
And misrepresentations. But this is making me sound way too noble in my cause. My nerd rage stems from article after article calling the Disney princesses problematic. And that is low-hanging fruit that will never be unbruised.
Okay.
Snow White.
I will say this too. I also think that a lot of people think that the Disney princesses are problematic. And I'm so glad someone made a video about this because this is a conversation I've had before. If no one knows, like, or if any of you guys know me, I'm a very big Disney fan. I love Disney. I have I know they have a lot of flaws, and I do believe one day they want to rule the world, but I do like Disney.
It has no personality besides being nice. Cinderella just cleans when she should be girl bossing. Aurora falls for a man who kisses her without her consent.
I cannot wait till we get to Sleeping Beauty.
Ariel has the audacity to make a major lifestyle change that she already wanted because it results
I also cannot wait to talk about this either.
in her getting a man. Belle totally has this thing called Stockholm Syndrome that wasn't just made up by a biased Swedish psychiatrist. Jasmine
Okay, and I also can't wait to talk about that. I'm sorry.
dares to get married. Pocahontas is too preachy. Mulan has to become a man to succeed. Criticisms tend to stop at Rapunzel, and thank heavens, because
Okay, Rapunzel's also incredibly, like, she's a great Disney princess. Like, I think Rapunzel is one of the best Disney princesses ever created. And also that Mandy Moore is her voice actor. But, like, nothing against Mandy Moore. She killed her role in this, but I agree. Anyone who comes after Rapunzel, we gotta talk. You're gonna about to catch some hands.
Anyone who comes after this gal is gonna wake up breathing through a tube.
I see how it is.
Anyway, this
Hi,
video
Daniel.
is one that has been brewing in my head for years, and I didn't think it needed to be done, since in my
The best princess of the 20th, bar none. I agree, and I'm so glad you're here because we're gonna talk about Disney princesses.
naive optimism, I like to believe that society has moved past scapegoating friggin' princess characters in harmless movies made for children as bad role models, but I still see memes that are really determined to misrepresent what I consider the first collection of strong female characters that I say with complete sincerity I was exposed to, and were actually role models and heavy influences on me.
I cannot wait till we talk about Sleeping Beauty. I cannot wait. I have so many opinions. And out of all of the videos of like all of the Disney movies, like I have strong opinions for a lot of them, but for some reason, Sleeping Beauty always gets me. And
But I was really inspired by my friends Leanna and Song hosting their podcast, Two Women Talking, with a guest called Derwin, where they talk about how most of the Disney princesses are actually quite subversive.
Let's face it,
Okay.
the Disney princesses were, they'd be called woke now.
So, internet.
Yeah,
if
I
you
can
want to
see
mess
that
with
too.
my girls, make space on tonight's dinner plate for both your words and my receipts.
I cannot wait. Tell me, give me these receipts.
First off, I am not going to give Rachel Zegler a hard time for certain poorly worded comments in interviews that were most likely given to her by a PR department who wants to push the pop feminist angle to get people to see the remake. And I will also
Okay, I also can't get over the fact that Gal Gadot is the evil queen, and like Snow White, I don't know, man. Gal Gadot is really great, and I get the whole concept of Snow White is like the beauty within versus the because she is technically like the fairest, but fair not only in face, but it could be for the heart. I don't know, something like that. But I am not at all excited for the Snow White movie that's about to come out, the live action. I haven't watched any of the Disney live actions after. Oh God, The Lion King, I think. I don't think I've seen any other live action. Not even the ones on Disney Plus. Disney Plus's live actions are not great, and I am not at all and like I saw that they replaced the Seven Dwarfs with like CG, and it doesn't look good.
also
know,
say
it could-
that I'm aware the voice can be a bit of a deal breaker.
I don't think it's a deal breaker because I think her voice is pretty.
I personally love Adriana Castellotti's voice, and without
That's her.
fail, I always smile whenever she starts off Whistle While You Work, but I fully admit that it's a preference issue, and if you don't like, you don't like.
Look at that. Like, that is so talented. I cannot hate Snow White for her voice. I just can't. I get that it's annoying, but like, I guess this was like a, what, 1930s film? 1940s? I don't know. That's how they assumed princesses would sound. Like, even now, like, we assume like a princess has a high-pitched voice, and Snow White did that. She started that. Remember when Peter Dinklage complained about the concept of dwarves and got himself to sing? Right? 1937, so almost 1940. But no, I did not know that about Peter Dinklage.
What I do take issue with are the
Okay.
claims that Snow White has no personality, just cooks and cleans, or
Okay.
has to be rescued, which are all used to accuse her of being the dreaded problematic. So let's
I get why people also say this with her, because she was one of the first Disney princesses, and I don't know. I guess I'm going to give them credit for not giving them like more of a story. I will never compare her to, let's say, we're going to go back to Rapunzel, like who is very like, who has such a deep background story, and you can kind of follow
run
along.
down this character's backstory and situation.
Yeah, backstory.
Dead mother, dead father, narcissistic stepmother who needs external validation from a talking mirror, and being made to dress in rags and clean this honking castle every day. She's accused of having no personality because she's sweet. And Quoth One review, sweetness isn't a personality, it's a flavoring. Okay, Snow
Okay.
White is clearly an optimist. And that's not really headcanon because her first song in the movie has her state that she's wishing for someone to come and take her away from this situation, which indicates that she's dreaming and choosing to adopt a positive outlook on life because that's the only way she can get through this
Okay,
lonely
optimistic-
existence.
an optimist
and sweetness
dreamer.
and kindness aren't the only personality traits she displays in the film.
I don't understand.
She's mad, jealous of you. She'll stop at nothing.
But who?
The Queen.
The Queen.
She's understandably and realistically terrified when she's informed that her stepmother ordered her death and now she has to fend for herself in the forest.
Okay, not only is she terrified, some random stranger literally goes up to her, says, I'm about to kill you with a knife, and then just says, I can't do it. I can't kill you. So not only is she riding off that high, you know, the initial shock of almost being killed, right? Then she finds out, oh, it was her mom or stepmom who sent the assassin. So yeah, running
She's
to the woods
practically
makes
minded
sense.
when she sees the dwarf's cottage in such a state and thinks it could use fixing up. She's stern with the dwarves when she sees they haven't washed before supper.
Also
and
agreed.
She's uneasy with the queen when she's in disguise and is clearly trying to humour what she thinks is a not-all-there-old woman before she makes a show of having some health problems.
Not only that, the witch was also very pushy. Like, Snow White, and I get it, like, I don't think she understood boundaries. I think that's her only thing. Because her stepmother made her do all of that in rags, and she didn't really, like, fight. Well, I don't know her backstory. We don't have much of a backstory. But she tried to be so nice to this woman, even though you can tell she was visibly uncomfortable with the witch. And yet, I feel like the poor Snow White just never learned boundaries. But she was stern with the dwarves, for sure.
So good to poor old Granny. I'll share a secret with you.
People also need to think of the context in which this first Disney princess was created.
Yep.
The 1930s.
Boom,
The Great
baby!
Depression. It's no coincidence that this adaptation adds these touches to Snow White's character that weren't in the original fairy tale.
We'll clean the house and surprise them. Then maybe they'll let me stay.
Her suddenly being impoverished and placed in an impossibly difficult situation would be extremely relevant and relatable to the average movie-going audience at the time, as would her offering a skill or service in exchange for shelter at the dwarf's cottage.
That's also something. Okay, maybe it's like a cultural thing, or maybe that has been lost in the United States. But like, my parents, or even like my parents or any kind of visitors, especially my family, let's just say my family, right? Anytime we can like stay with other family members, we always like clean the house because we want to thank them for offering us a place to stay. I get why Snow White was cleaning, because if you see what she thought was children, right? Because at first she thought they were children, how messy that house is. Of course she would be like, oh, if I help clean, I can help protect these children, you know, or something.
Since she can't provide any money. And as for
Especially
the
'cause she
cooking and
can't provide
cleaning,
money.
Look at it from Snow's perspective. She's been made to clean the castle by her stepmother, and she guesses by the state of the cottage that the dwarfs either can't or don't have the time to clean it themselves. In fact, first assuming they're children, with
Exactly.
no mother to take care of them.
Exactly.
So she sees they're in need of something, which just so happens to be one of the skills she has.
Boom.
And she proactively demonstrates that to earn her place there. She doesn't expect to get treated like a guest or have the dwarfs wait on her hand
Yeah.
and foot. She wants to contribute and help them in exchange for helping her. And actually, people often forget.
Let's see, I get why people say that, but they're also wrong in their analysis. Most of this is surface level because, again, most of these Disney movies were, in fact, very surface level. They didn't really get complex until, well, dang it, I guess it would be, well, no, Cinderella was a little complex. I guess it depends. But for Snow White, I mean, it was like literally their first film. They didn't have this was the film that kind of set the bar for other animated films.
That in these sorts of traditional settings, the home was the woman's domain, as in women were in charge of
Yep.
running a household, and you can see the dwarves defer to her as soon as she's made part of their home.
March straight outside and wash, or you'll not get a bite to eat.
Like, she says
And as
that.
for dreaming of a prince to come
Girl.
and rescue her, well, it's a fantasy, one that's designed to be escapist for the audience. And in the 1930s, one way to escape such grinding poverty would be for a handsome prince to come along and marry you. And Snow isn't just wishing for any prince.
And she fell in love.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to do.
It was very easy.
She specifically says
The one I love.
she wants love, clearly stemming from having no parents and an abusive stepmother.
Also
And
true.
there's nothing wrong with that. She doesn't want Princey for his money or status. She wants him because he's a good person who loves her.
Anyone could see that the prince was charming.
Obviously his role is very small, and most of the plans for him had to be reduced since the animators were having trouble with a realistic human male. But this was actually a subversion of the original fairy tale as well, where the prince only shows up at the end.
Oh!
Hello.
Oh!
Did I frighten you?
Here they meet beforehand, and Snow spends some time dreaming of him coming to find her. She's not idly waiting around for him, since she's busying herself making a new life in the dwarf's cottage, so she's dreaming while still being proactive. And I really can't stand the revisionist takes on this ending. The prince thinks she's dead, and he
this
comes
is
to
another
pay
thing.
his
Okay.
respects.
Boom!
Look at it from this poor guy's
Okay.
perspective. He falls in love, and then one day finds her gone from the place he expected her to be, and eventually hears of her death several months later. So saying goodbye to the woman you loved and never got the chance to be with will never not be beautifully heartbreaking to me.
Now, let me just go ahead and say this too. I think this is also a cultural thing, maybe. Because there are some people who, even if it's like an open casket, they would give a kiss to the fallen friend or family member or whatever, right, who had already passed. Like, it's a sign of respect. Now, I like, not to say that I don't like the memes. I'm always here for the memes, always. But I also understand where he was coming from with the prince, because I don't think he thought she would ever wake up. Like, I don't think he realized that a kiss would break the spell, right? Because this guy doesn't look like he knows magic. However, him giving a kiss out of respect, that makes so much sense. Because even there's some people today, some people will be like, oh, no, I don't want to kiss a dead body. But there's still some people who would kiss someone who has already passed as a sign of mourning, as a, like grief, and that kind of thing. So he hits the nail right on the head for Snow White.
And since this is a quasi-musical and outright draws from opera as well, the prince is played by a tenor, which is always used to code an innocent, love-struck, and somewhat naive character who is definitely good-hearted.
See, I never know what octave or voice or whatever, tenors or altos or whatever, convey what kind of emotion. That's what's so crazy. I love music, but I don't know exactly like what would convey such emotions.
So Snow White is falling in love with a dude because of his kindness and goodness. And outside of that, this movie has these elements of tolerance towards those who would be considered the
Also
outcasts
true.
of society.
Also
we get a very
true.
cute scene of Snow simply dancing and having fun with the dwarves, treating them as men and equals.
That's
without
what I was
making
going
a
to
big
say.
fuss
Treating
about
them
it,
as equals.
Which one could argue emphasizes why she is the fairest of them all, rather than the evil queen. Next.
Okay, as an adult, not gonna lie, as an adult, Cinderella has grown on me. And maybe it's the many iterations that they have of Cinderella, but I love her. And I also watched Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella, the one with Brandy. Yeah, watched that yesterday. I think
I thankfully don't have to
So
spend
fresh.
too long defending Princess Number 2 because, first, she is the result of Walt Disney trying to go for a very safe, audience-pleasing movie that would make a lot of money and therefore Snow White but more.
I feel like
most of my
Cinderella is
defense
such a
about Snow
safe
already applies to
fairy
Cinders.
tale.
And second, out of all the Disney heroines, she's ranked second in terms of merch sales behind Elsa, and if you only go by the gals who are officially in the lineup, that makes her the most popular princess, at least in terms of how many people buy her stuff.
But also she had like a really good third film. I think A Twist in Time or something. That one was pretty good.
And finally, there have been plenty of takes pointing out that
I love the
Cinderella
art.
isn't anti-feminist, she's an abuse victim.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
We
and
both.
the tapestries.
Okay, I think by this point we all know that Cinderella is an abuse victim. Like that is
And
the
draperies.
basis
But
in
I'll
her
just fill them
story.
again.
What's only implied in Snow White, we see firsthand here.
Mm-hmm.
And the villain isn't some fairy tale queen with supernatural powers, just a wicked woman who hates her stepdaughter for no apparent reason.
Oh, please, you don't.
One of the most realistic villains. Like for real though. Like she is one of the most realistic villains. And the way she portrays the stepmother, like her voice is just it's so good.
Don't think that.
Hold your tongue.
Like
I
that-
admittedly do prefer the
Oh my
live-action
God.
remake for the backstory it adds to Lady Tremaine, but the animated version is fine too.
Above all, self-control. Yes!
Cinders, like Snow, is in an impossible situation that she can only get through by way of maintaining a positive attitude and finding things to love, such as the animals she makes friends with and singing while she works.
And she's got a voice. Girl.
And contrary to what pop culture would have you believe, she's not actually sitting around dreaming about a prince. When
Nope.
the ball is announced and every maiden is to attend, her motivation is literally just to have a night off, and get
Yes.
to dance and have fun.
That was in like, oh my God. She didn't even realize she was dancing with the prince. At least this version.
It's actually Drizella and Anastasia who want to marry the prince, and Cinders doesn't even know she's dancing with the guy when she
That's
gets
what I'm
there.
saying. Oh my God,
I
me and this guy.
am the prince.
A prince? But didn't you?
In fact, the Disney adaptation adds another subversion to the fairy tale with a genius subplot, where
Yeah.
Cinderella's mice friends make a dress for her to wear, using some of the stepsisters' old cast-offs, and she's ready to take her place at the ball, whether they like it or not. And in a fantastic
Oh my
but
God.
heartbreakingly cruel twist, the stepsisters destroy the dress.
So, funny thing, when I first saw this movie and I saw that they ripped her dress, I would get so angry that every time that part comes up, I would have to skip it because I'd get angry for Cinderella. I would be like, girl, just punch him out, because I have a sister and we used to fist fight. Like, we used to fight when we were kids. And so in my kid brain, I was like, girl, just knock him out. Just do one wind up punch, knock him out. I swear they won't ever bother you again. That was my kid brain. I didn't realize, like, oh, wait, maybe that's not it. Maybe that's not such a good idea. I was a kid who was like, if they fight you, if they do that to you and you're that mad, knock them out.
Which, according
Just
to
do
a
it.
deleted song, was also what her mother got married in.
See, I wish I would known that. What I would do if I... That's what I'm saying!
It's only then that the fairy godmother comes, in effect rewarding her for finding the courage to defy her family
Yeah.
by giving her the chance to do so again.
It's more than I ever hoped for. Bless you, my child.
The Disney version also adds a third act.
I wonder-
twist
I always
where
wondered
Lady
what that
Tremaine
headband is supposed
realizes
to
that
be.
Cinderella is the girl the prince is looking for and locks her in the attic so she can't try on the slipper. But the
Like she
mice
knew.
and bird friends she'd spent the film treating with kindness despite her situation work to free her. And it's also her idea to get Bruno the dog to scare away Lucifer the cat.
Yes.
So you see the
Like, she's so smart. And, like, she's like, fuck Lucifer the cat. Fuck him. She's like, dog, get that cat. He's a bitch.
narrative actively worked to reward Cinderella for remaining a good person in spite of the mistreatment inflicted on her.
And
which
she
was
wasn't-
very deliberate.
Not only did they reward her for, like, you know, all the mistreatment, and she still had that kindness and everything, she was not like a doormat. Does that make sense? Like, she had her own sass. And I appreciate, because if she defied her by going to the ball and doing everything, like malicious compliance, and did everything, and she's like, all right, I'm done, let's do good, and I have a dress, and I have all this, like, she knew she wasn't a doormat.
By Walt, who wasn't a fan of an earlier idea to have the fairy godmother show up again to unlock the door, and thought it meant more for her to be rewarded for the friendships she'd made.
Also
and a
good.
checkmate moment that never fails to make me smile, as well as yet another subversion. Lady Tremaine breaks the glass slipper before Cinderella can try it on, but then...
But you see, I have the other slipper.
I
It is
thought
not
that was the
best
coolest.
Disney movie, but it has plenty of moments, and Cinderella is far from a bad character.
Okay, as a classic film, I think this is one of their stronger classic films. Like, nothing to say, in, like, okay, in terms of princess films, because I know, like, Peter Pan is good for some people, and like Peter Pan has its pros and cons, but I still think Cinderella is a very strong, even outside of being a Disney princess movie, very strong retro, I guess, a vintage Disney film.
And I know it's impossible not to compare different versions, but I find pitting the animated version against the remakes a bit depressing, since it usually results in victim blaming one when they are both very different characters.
I think this is also why Cinderella, the live action, is one of the only few. You know what? No, it's like the one really good live action. Is because these Cinderella characters are different from each other, that it doesn't feel quite like Disney. You know what I mean? And also, Lady Tremaine in the live action was phenomenal as a villain. Oh my God, I loved her. Loved her. And also the dress. The dress was just, it's like two separate Cinderellas, right? That's what I get from the Disney film.
You don't understand it. I've tried to be kind to you. You kind to me? Yes.
I may prefer Lily James's Ella, but they're both good. And they're significantly better than the Amazon Cinderella.
We don't talk about
which is
that.
an example of why
Did that get taken down? Wasn't that like so bad that it got, like,
we should
I remember
spend
the
less
memes that
time
came out of that
demonizing
one.
the Disney princesses, and more time shining the microscope on today's batch of nightmarishly awful heroines.
Okay,
Moving on.
okay, first of all, don't you dare speak badly about A Court of Thorns and Roses in my house. Don't you fucking dare. Because I love that series. This is the time.
Now you're getting me in spoiling for a fight mode.
How could I marry a prince? I'd have to be a princess. And you are, dear.
The last of the classic.
Okay. This is what's going to happen. Because I can't keep pausing. We're going to go through this. And then I think near the end, there's something I got to say. Because there's some disagreements I have with him.
3 princesses. And so, the 3 most common arguments are no personality, damsel in distress, and non-consensual kiss. If you're going to accuse...
Let's see. The Amazon Cinderella is yet another one reminder why James Gordon should be banned from movies. Okay. The Amazon, I just couldn't watch it. I tried. And I just couldn't do it. It was so bad. And it wasn't even, like, I would usually find, like, maybe it's the music that'd be good in some films. Or, like, the costumes or something. And, like, they were really, really pushing towards, like, the outfits, right? It just gave... It didn't give. You know, the whole movie just didn't give. You know what I mean?
Aurora of having no personality. Bless your heart, because you've clearly sustained extensive brain damage.
Really not supposed to speak to strangers. But we've met before.
Uncle Wolf
She's a
was
flirty.
further trying to grow
Flirty
as an
flirt.
artist and storyteller, and Sleeping Beauty was intended to be his most artistically prestigious film yet, deviating from the princess formula that had been used in Cinderella and Snow White, and Aurora was envisioned to be less of an ingenue than those two.
Yep. I'm sorry, I did say I was going to stop. But honestly, this isn't Aurora's movie. This is Prince Philip's movie, all right? Don't get it twisted.
I have met someone.
Aurora doesn't just dreamily sing about a handsome prince. She does it when she's told not to speak to strangers, meaning she's having forbidden fantasies, and is happy to roleplay with an owl, and not just sing sweetly, but also flirt and play coy.
When will I see you again?
Oh, never, never.
Never?
I always thought she was very flirty.
Well, maybe someday.
Snow White runs inside when her prince shows up, only coming out from behind a curtain and showing that she's into him when the song is over. Aurora, however, goes, "Oh, you want to play ball, buddy? Let's go." And she rebelliously shares a dance with a handsome stranger against the wishes of her aunts.
That's true.
But then, once the excitement is over, she sensibly makes arrangements to get to know Philip later, inviting him to her home, where she was expecting her aunts to also be there so
Like this,
she could introduce them.
see, this was sweet. She really wanted to introduce them to her tias. And I thought that was really, really sweet. Aside from Fantasia, it's probably my most artistically unique Disney film. Yes, I think Sleeping Beauty also makes a statement because the art in Sleeping Beauty, you recognize it as the art of Sleeping Beauty. Nothing else has been created that would look even similar to this kind of art style for Disney. And I love it. I really wish they could make more stuff like this because this was a beautiful movie.
At the cottage, in the glen.
There are also a few little moments further demonstrating this, such as her knowing instantly that the 3 fairies are planning something for her birthday and playing along for the sake of the surprise, and Mary Costa's iconic work.
Oh, God, that voice. Oh, that
You
voice
cannot
is
accuse these
everything.
expertly sung notes of having no personality.
That's
Hell,
just,
Aurora's
yeah.
the only princess who was supernaturally gifted with a beautiful singing voice.
True.
And Mary Costa makes you believe this talent was granted by a fairy godmother.
How can you make that vocal?
And then we move to
so
the damsel
pretty.
in distress criticism. Yeah, she's in distress. So what? That's what the fairy tale's about.
Okay. I know she's in distress. Oh, God, I gotta hold my tongue. All right, I'll hold my
Quoth
tongue.
the unshaved mouse, if she saves herself, it's not Sleeping Beauty, it's she. And if you're going to attack the movie for being anti-feminist because there's a female character who needs to be rescued, you also have to acknowledge the screen time and plot significance given to 3 other female characters who are older and not conventionally attractive, while still being presented as strong and powerful with buckets of personality between them.
True.
Or that, you know...
Okay. This is where I have to stop. Because this is where I'm going to go crazy. So you see these, hold on. Oh, cheese and crackers. Come on, me.
Female character who needs to be rescued, you also have to acknowledge the screen time and plot significance given to 3 other female...
Okay. This is what I discussed with Abby. I think not last Sunday, but the Sunday before then. Okay. I wouldn't necessarily say that these now I don't know how to start this. I don't know if they could be considered strong feminist icons because the entirety of Sleeping Beauty was their fault. These adorable three women who, yes, I actually think are great, fantastic, very, what is it? They have a lot of personality for each individual fairy and they stand out. People still cosplay them. Like they love the character. And I love that they're represented by older women. Okay. Those are the pros. I always love them. I do. They're very well written. Okay. However, literally everything that happens to Sleeping Beauty is their fault. Okay. Let me break it down so you would understand. When they have the ball, like the opening sequence of this, the three fairies, it was her, Merryweather. I will never forget. Merryweather was the one when Maleficent came in who told her that she wasn't wanted. When Maleficent asked, oh, hey, like, I see you brought the chantry and nobility and all of that. And she was like, oh, well, you know, she wasn't even talking to the fairies, right? No, she was talking to the king and queen. And the king and queen didn't even answer. It was the fucking fairies. It was fucking Merryweather who said you weren't wanted. And you saw right after the shock on Maleficent's face. What? Excuse me? So, of course, if she would have shut her up and let the king and queen talk, maybe they could have said something instead of Merryweather having her little tantrum thing or like just being a sassy, which I don't mind sass, but there's a time and place. That was not the time nor the place, which also brings me to Merryweather was also the one who was like, okay, I'm going to try and save this girl's life, maybe because she's the one who caused it in the first place. But, you know, I'm going to say instead of dying, she's going to sleep, right? That is what happened, right? And then when that happens, they tell the king and queen, hey, let us take her in. We'll watch over her and we'll bring her back on her 16th birthday, right? In those 16 years, they did not teach her or tell her, not in those full 16 years, that she was a princess. Nor did they teach her any of the etiquette. So, of course, she's going to be shocked. And in the very end, she hardly has any lines. She only cries over... Wait, is there a scene here? Here. Okay? Around this scene. She almost she was so... Not only was she possessed, but by that point, she was like, what do you call it? There's a word for it. There's a term. God dang it. Now I can't think of the freaking word. Dissociated. That's the word. She dissociated the moment that she realized the man that she has a crush on will never meet her tias. Her tias really aren't her tias. They're in fact magical beings. And that they lied to her for 16 years about her being a princess. All of that taken in one night. And her reaction of her not talking and just going with the flow, putting on the dress and putting on the crown and just accepting it. That bitch has been traumatized. She has dissociated from the rest of the film. And why? Who caused it? These ladies did it. Okay? They could have taught her some princess etiquette. They could have taught her some, or told her oh, hey, we're magical beings. That kind of thing. But they didn't. They didn't tell her anything. So, of course, she's going to be shocked, right? Of course she is. Because y'all lied to her. You didn't even have to tell her that you were fairies. You could have just been like, hey, we're going to teach you these, etiquette and, princess. And does she even know? Does she even know, foreign politics? They could have taught her foreign politics. And they could have used magic. Ah, man. It's all their fault.
Older and not conventionally attractive, while still being presented as strong and powerful with buckets of
There was
personality
another thing.
between them.
Oh, okay, we'll get to that.
Prince Philip also needs rescuing, and that the being...
Okay, before we get to Prince Philip, another thing, once they found out that Sleeping Beauty, as Aurora, pricked her finger, did they go to the king and queen? Oh, shit, I need to go back. Before we get to that, my ADHD brain is going really hard. When they finally tell her, and Aurora discovers that these Tias are actually magical beings with wands and magic and all that, and she's a princess and all that good stuff. She dissociates and whatever. She gets her finger pricked because she's easily influenced. I'm pretty sure because of all the trauma. I believe that. She gets influenced by Maleficent to prick her finger. And how did they discover? Well, yeah. How did she discover that Aurora was at the fairy's house? Because for the 16 years that they promised they would not use magic, they decided to use magic the day before her fucking birthday. A few hours before her fucking birthday. And like, Aurora would have known that they're shitty cooks. And Aurora would have known that they couldn't make the dress because she lived with them for 16 years, right? And these motherfucking fairies decide, you know what? For the one day, we're just going to use magic to make this cake look good, to make the house look good, to make this dress look good. They couldn't have waited a few more hours to reveal that? At least the fairy thing? Because you know that she's in immediate danger. So the final few hours of her, like, day before her birthday or whatever, why in the world would you think that would be a good idea? When you know the prophecy and the curse and whatever, that shit. And and it's their fault. They used magic for her to get caught.
Being they need rescuing from is also a woman, and hyped up as the most powerful person in the story.
I think she's also the most powerful person in all of like Disney chronological history. Maleficent's pretty powerful.
Mistress of all evil.
So is it anti-feminist to need to be rescued from a woman by 3 other women?
Okay, first of all, she didn't rescue. Oh, first of all, the 3 other women didn't do shit. I'm sorry. And I will argue anyone about that. Those 3 other women didn't do shit. Okay. They caused so many problems and they had to have.
I'd argue that Maleficent is more sexist, since it uses the woman scorned trope, makes the 3 good fairies into idiots to prop up Maleficent, turns the first heroic Disney queen into a disposable woman who dies off screen, and actually makes Aurora more of an ingenue who needs constant supervision, rather than the hard-working, street-smart girl from this version. But
Well,
this is also
I wouldn't consider street smart if she talked to a stranger. That's not very street smart.
objective, and we really don't need to torture ourselves arguing over whether something counts as feminist or not to base our enjoyment on that. And then there's the kiss, which really did not need to be lampshaded in Maleficent, because it has always been such a non-issue, and anyone who tries to claim otherwise is likely projecting a lot.
When
Okay.
true love's kiss, the spell shall break.
While I sometimes get jaded at the state of the world and think a century-long siesta might be a decent idea, Aurora has a family waiting for her. Specifically 2 parents who haven't seen her
Also
in
true.
16 years, and also a man whom she burst into tears over when she was told she couldn't see him again. And said man is the one kissing her to save her from an eternal coma.
Okay, we're gonna pause here because that eternal coma is another big thing that with this movie. So, again, nothing against the fairies, but it is all their fault because when they realized their mistake, did they go to the king and queen? No, they did not go to the king and queen, telling them that, hey, we kind of goofed up. Maleficent found out, and now your daughter's dead, kind of thing, right? Instead, they put the whole kingdom to sleep instead of admitting what they did. And while they were putting their whole kingdom asleep, that's when they found out that Prince Philip was being held prisoner. So then they had the bright idea of saying, hey, we're going to let this guy solve our problems. We're going to just tell this guy what's going to happen. And then he can save the day. And no, at no point did they admit to him that they were the ones who caused all of this, right? They're like, oh, Maleficent got her, you know, do that thing. Sorry, I'm very hi Quackers Juniors. Quacky Juniors. Is that Quacky Juniors? Okay, sorry. Hi Quacky Juniors. Sorry, I'm getting really into this. But yes, it is all the three fairies' fault. They did this to her. And they try to cover their mistakes by making her sleep until a kiss can break the spell, including the spell over the entire kingdom, right? So they were never held accountable for the problems that they caused. They caused all those problems. The freaking fairies. And you think, oh, Maleficent. No, man, Maleficent was just being, well, she ended up getting impatient after the last day, but like she was patient. Nothing. Never seen anyone so passionate about Disney. Listen. This might be actually, it is very cringe. I am a big like Disney person. And I like to psychoanalyze a lot of these films.
An article on the Mary Sue said it best. This is not a drunken accidental hookup or an older male authority figure taking advantage of a younger co-worker.
Ew.
He's literally saving her from an eternity of sleep.
And with that, the whole kingdom, okay? It's Prince Philip's film. Aurora ain't got nothing to do with it. It's Prince Philip versus Maleficent. And also versus not knowing the fairies.
Non-verbal consent is a thing, and Aurora gives Philip plenty of it in her body language when she's comfortable around him, and her reaction to Philip during her awakening. She is not upset about being kissed. She got kissed by someone she liked. She would have kissed him if she was awake.
Thank you, Cracky.
Also, I do like this little moment right before she pricks her finger.
Don't touch anything.
Why would she listen to you? You lied to her. Sorry. Sorry.
And it's open to enough interpretation to suggest that Aurora was actually strong enough to briefly fight off Maleficent's influence. Aurora also displays a lot of dignity and composure in how she learns that her entire life has been a lie, and now she's expected to marry some man she's never heard of and eventually run a kingdom.
That is what I am talking about. How is it that, like, not to say that she doesn't have a personality, but if I was her and I found out my entire life was a lie at 16 years old and that I was going to be uprooted from the home that I lived at for 16 years to meet parents who I've never seen before, like, so how would I, you know, have like the mother-daughter relationship or any kind of parental figure versus child relationship? And that the three women who took care of me all of my life will no longer be a part of that life because she thought that that's all that she had.
And yet still seems willing to go along.
Look at that disassociation in her face. Look at it. This bitch is like she's traumatized.
For duty, in spite of how much pain it's causing her.
Girl cry.
Because she's the most unashamedly feminine of the princesses. The decades-long war against her has finally lessened now that the backlash towards what has been derisively called N-log feminism and the criticism of traditional femininity has led to people re-evaluating these more feminine archetypes, and Aurora actually seems to be enjoying a resurgence in popularity. She's fourth in my list of favorite princesses, and will.
I still think she's a lower tier on my, like, in my view of princesses, not because she doesn't have much personality, but the film that she's in is really not her film. Like, I do believe it's like Prince Philip and the fairies. The fairies really took it.
We'll segue to my number one now.
I can't wait for this.
I won't stay here too long because I've already done 2 videos talking about Ariel, even if one was from a time when I had no clue what I was doing. And I would skip over her completely if I didn't keep seeing memes and jokes about how when you watch the movie as an adult, you relate more to Triton, and Ariel should just listen to her father. Okay.
Yes and no. I do think that because she's 16, she shouldn't have done the things that she did. But at the same time, King Triton, oh my God, I used to be so pissed at him too. Oh my God, would I pissed at King Triton as a young kid.
And side with Triton in this situation, let me replace one word in these following lines.
You would have died.
One less.
Black man.
Don't worry about.
Did we learn?
Okay, yeah. I always knew that.
Learn something? Someone else tried to throw that "she gives up her life for a man" punch on me recently, and I happily brought receipts.
Okay.
You don't even know him.
Know him? I don't have to know him.
Like Cinderella and Snow White, Ariel is an.
Is this controversy? No, but you know what's funny? Like I kind of figured, yeah, like he just hates humans, like really, really bad. And now, you know, if you've ever watched any of the film, like sequel films, like I did, you would understand why. But I get that he hates him, but good Lord, the way that he lashes out at her because of his hatred always drove me crazy. Like, boy, like, man, she's 16. She don't want to see you
An abuse
yell
victim,
at her like that.
albeit one where the abuser is regretful
Yes.
and works to correct his behavior once
Also
he's
true.
seen just how badly he messed up.
Yes.
And any bad decisions Ariel makes are frustratingly relatable, especially since Ursula has been watching her and
Yep.
lying in wait specifically to rush her into making one. And in
Okay, I will also say this. I do appreciate King Triton for, like, acknowledging his mistakes and trying to fix it. Like, that is a good adult character. Especially because he was like, I love her so much, I'm going to take, like, her deal. I'm going to sacrifice my life to the witch instead of her, right? That's really good. You know who wouldn't do that? Abuela from Encanto.
In my first video,
Just saying.
I said that
I'm
a
just
flaw
saying.
in the story was Ariel not appearing to learn enough from the ordeal or apologize enough, but I actually take that one back now. Ariel doesn't have to apologize for she got punished literally for a feeling, not an action, and
Also
because
true.
of that bad decision from her father, ended up in the clutches of a predator who was waiting for such a scenario. And for all the times I've heard her called a bad role model, here's a list of honorable things she does in the film.
I don't know if you mentioned this already, but she didn't really get all of that for a man. She's always loved humans. Like, she's always been so curious about, like, human culture and just wants to be a part of that. And when she got the chance, right, not only by saving, you know, Eric, but having an opportunity to explore, you see her with Eric when she's exploring the city, how much she's really just trying to take in the city, right? And riding a car for the first time and all these other things and the clothes that she puts on.
Saves a complete innocent from drowning, even though she knows it risks her father's rage. Also staying with him until she's sure he's alive. Being open-minded about another culture.
Yeah,
And trying to learn as much as possible about a world that's not her own.
Yes!
And trying to save someone who's been a victim of the same predator who went after her. There are worse
Okay, that's
fictional
also-
characters you could look up to.
Far better than any dream girl is one of flesh and blood. One warm and caring and right before your eye.
I feel like
Also, I stand the butler. The butler's awesome. Okay? I forget his name. And I know it's going to come to me sometime. But I appreciate that he's like, even if she doesn't talk, I mean, I see the way you like her. Like, I see the way you look at her. Maybe you should just, you know,
like the Little
talk to
Mermaid
her.
could be the litmus
Be
test
with
for
her.
media literacy, and she gives up her whole life for a man is the instant fail answer. But there's
Yeah.
another similar fail answer for
Oh, I
our
can't
next
wait.
princess.
She's my favorite. I don't care what anyone says. She's my favorite.
Yes, in 2024, we still have to defend a character created in 1991 against accusations of a made-up condition. Lindsay Ellis does a fantastic video breaking down why Beauty and the Beast is not about Stockholm Syndrome.
I hated. Okay.
Hi, how are
Oh my God. Quacker. Is it Quacky Jars or Quacky Juniors? Or Quacky Jeers? Should I just call you Quacky? Thank you so much for the follow. I hated. Actually, I kind of liked the memes. I can always take a joke. But I hated when the people were really serious that she had Stockholm Syndrome. Because I'm like, She absolutely does not. I highly doubt that she does. And I think
So
Let's
I'd recommend
watch. Let's see
checking
if he
that one
explains
out,
why.
but I'll add my 2 cents as well. Stockholm Syndrome was named for an incident in the city of the same name, where a set of hostages came to trust their captors
just said every variation of my name like for a sec. Yeah, that's how my brain works.
more than the police, actually hugged and kissed each other goodbye at the end of the situation, and they refused to testify against them. However, the psychiatrist who made up the term never actually met with any of the hostages, and just publicly declared they had been brainwashed by the syndrome specifically to deflect blame from the police, who were unnecessarily brutal in dealing with the hostage situation, outright rejecting a peaceful release plan set down by the captors that was specifically designed to ensure the safety of the hostages. One of them had a recorded phone call with the Prime Minister expressing worry that the police would storm the building and get a lot of people killed, to which the dude replied, "You will have to content yourself that you died at your post," giving them good reason not to trust the police.
Yes!
So yeah, made-up syndrome that was really a backhanded form of victim blaming.
Are you kidding me? They're like, if you die, well, at least you died to your post. Are you fucking kidding me?
Move on to Belle. And unfortunately, this first pill will be a hard one to swallow.
Okay.
We are all going to do abusive things at some point in our lives. It's unavoidable. We're all a product of our environments, constantly learning and growing, especially while we're young. That's not to invalidate the hurt these things will cause, but what counts is how a person responds to boundaries and their...
It's like, literally just boo-hoo, you died, get good. Yeah. I mean, really.
So looking at Belle's situation, she agrees to stay in the castle in exchange for her father going free.
Not only does she agree to stay in the castle, she agrees after seeing the beast. And like, she could have said like, nah, man, you're a beast. You can have him. But she didn't. She saw, that's one, fucking Belle. She is so brave for doing that. And I hate when people are like, oh no, if you had a beast right in front of you and you still agreed to stay with him, like, come on. That takes some balls.
And when the beast sees how saddened she is by this, he does attempt to make it up to her by providing a room and saying she's free to explore the castle. And Belle does not immediately swoon over being given scraps when her entire world has been turned upside down.
Also true. She does not accept more than she deserves. Like, she does not accept any more than she deserves. Like, the bar is on the floor for her. Oh, you got a good room. Like, that's nice. But he still demands that she goes to dinner with him, like trying to strip her of any kind of bound. And she's like, nah, fuck that. I love Belle so much.
And stands up to the beast when he demands that she join him for dinner.
Yes, yes!
You can't stay in there forever.
Yes, I can.
He threatens to break down the door, and she doesn't budge.
Exactly.
She's clearly not afraid of him.
Yes!
And so anything she does is entirely on her terms.
Actually, I do think she's afraid of him, but I do think that she's just stubborn. You know what I mean? Like, I think she is scared. I mean, he's a beast. Especially seeing this room, but I believe, like, she's just brave.
She even goes
She's got
into the
balls.
West Wing when she knows he doesn't want her to.
Yep.
She seems to think
Defile
defying
him.
him would be funny.
Yep.
And when he
Defy
goes
him.
ballistic and she sees how out of control he is, what does she say?
Promise or no promise, I can't stay here another minute.
She's like, I'm gonna protect myself. She's, oh gosh, she loves herself enough to be like, this is a dangerous situation. I'm gonna leave. Fuck that promise. Fuck all those things.
When she thinks her life is in danger,
Oh!
she leaves.
Yep.
And then the beast saves her from wolves. She doesn't go back to the castle after some token nice gesture to keep her happy. He literally saves her life at great risk to his own, which sends quite a different message to her. Since the kind of person who goes out of their way to rescue you from wolves after you ran out of their home terrified for your life is at least worth a second chance.
Yes.
Belle also was likely thinking more pragmatically, since there doesn't appear to be another human around, and he would possibly die if she left him alone in the snow, and we can safely say that even after how he behaved, Belle is not the type of person to leave someone to die after they just saved her life.
She has such a kind heart. And I used to think maybe she was just going to drop him off at the castle, but then he woke up, and that's why we end up at this scene.
And then look at their first conversation afterwards.
You hadn't have run away. This would
I
have
love this
If you
conversation.
hadn't frightened me, I wouldn't have run away.
She has accountability for her actions, and then also challenges him to own up to his.
Well, you should learn to control your temper.
She doesn't shift blame, and also checks him on that temper, to
Yep.
which he is immediately receptive. Belle rewards this good behavior by thanking him for saving her life.
Exactly.
And he likewise then makes an effort with her, trying to eat breakfast the human way, and then Belle meets him halfway. The beast never attempts to control Belle.
This is like this film is such a good message on compromise. Like, they know they're different. They're trying to feel each other out. I love that how they portray it.
Force her to do anything she doesn't want, or even raise his voice to her again. Rather, once she shows him kindness, he feels compelled to do something chivalrous for her. And for anyone trying to snark he gave her a library he already had, I speak as a reformed...
First of all, I don't care if you own that library. If you give someone a room and be like, this is yours now, and it's this gorgeous, you shut the fuck up and you take that gift. Because, like, God dang, look at it. It's stunning.
Trusting someone else with my books is a big deal. And of course, once the beast realizes that Belle is still technically here because of the agreement, he properly sets her free as an act of love, expecting nothing in return.
Why?
Because I love her.
Belle
That's
also
so
doesn't
sweet.
feel pressured or manipulated, since she heads off to help her father instantly, and doesn't think of returning to the castle until she knows the...
That's like a whole ass study plus sleeping room. Bro, that's like a whole wing.
Beast is in danger.
3 floors.
And for people who claim that Belle is too static or doesn't have a complete character arc,
Shut up.
someone else pointed out to me that it's subtle, but it's there.
Gaston, you are positively
Yes.
primeval.
Why, thank you, Belle.
When Gaston is harassing her at the beginning, she keeps her opinions to herself and tries to brush him off with politeness. Similar to when she rejects him again at the planned wedding.
And he doesn't get it.
Again, using trickery and indirectness to get him out of her hair. The first time she actually stands up for herself is when she's in the Beast's castle.
Yes! I love that comparison too, because about that point you realize, oh, Gaston really isn't like... I've been up to a beast. I can stand up to a man like him.
To stay there, she becomes more assertive
Yes.
and doesn't have to play the nice game, as we call it. And the Beast respects her for stating her opinions and standing her ground.
Agreed.
Falling in love with her because of it. Her assertiveness compels him to improve his behavior. And then when Gaston tries to have her father committed, she
Yes.
finally stands up to him and puts him in his place.
He's no monster, Gaston. You are.
Great line! Great line! Tell him. Belle, if Belle has no fans, I'm already dead.
And for people who complain that she's too passive in the climax, she doesn't need to be a badass or fight the villagers herself. She shows up to be there for the man she loves.
Yes!
She'd already come to the end of her arc.
Because the battle isn't really between her and like the villain, it's between Beast's like insecurities, let's be honest. Beast's insecurities versus Gaston. Like he didn't really start fighting back because he was ready to give it all up until Belle came back and he's like, oh shit, bro, she came here, she chose to come here. I gotta fight. Like it's Beast's insecurities versus Gaston.
And her being there encourages the Beast once again.
Beast!
Oh, look at the way he looks at her.
Beauty and the Beast isn't my favorite Disney movie, but these last 10 minutes are just absolutely perfect.
You came back.
This is literally like top Disney princess movie. I love this movie.
And it's Belle who breaks the enchantment.
This is the worst scene. And we all know why. I'm not going to spell it out for you.
By admitting her love out loud, which is given all the more power by the Beast dying believing it was better for her to not have to be saddled with him. And the curse breaking is the
This is the
biggest
worst scene.
indicator that she loved
Why?
him whole.
Why? Why did they ever change the Beast? They should have just given him facial hair, but I guess they're like, well, kids won't like facial hair or something. I don't know. But they should have just given him facial hair. They should have done something.
Heartedly.
It is you.
And I know how it's fun to joke about how we prefer the Beast to the Prince.
Straight up,
but
we do.
Another great thing about Belle is that she's neither blown away nor repulsed by the change in appearance.
No.
And instead looks to the eyes to confirm that it's him.
Yeah, because
showing
that's
that
what
she is not
that's the poster that she saw. That's how she recognized him to be the Beast. Because in that shredded poster, all she could see was his eyes.
shallow at all. And her love for him is not dependent on any part of his physical appearance. Which unfortunately the remake shat all over by.
Oh God, I can't. I just can't. Like is it just a curse that all Adams are just, well, no, I take that back because there's a Beauty and the Beast film in French. That's pretty damn good. But this,
including that joke about him growing a beard, because portraying girlfriends as controlling the man's appearance is feminist apparently. And while we're on the remake, it misrepresents Belle by playing more to the pop culture idea of her as
That's
this
true.
Hermione figure that she never was.
Teaching another girl to read isn't one and...
I think the only thing and I've said this before, the only thing I like about this live action is the music. Like there's some scenes that are like really, really good and some that just fall flat. Like there's no in between. I don't know. It's like a roller
Hermione
coaster.
was not an aspirational character. Her book smarts stem from insecurities about wanting to be the best, and she actually alienates everyone because she's such a know-nothing know-it-all, not getting friends until she actually shows some compassion by covering for Harry and Ron. There are also other instances where Hermione...
See, I will also disagree with this comparison because Hermione and Emma Watson's portrayal of Belle is actually rather different. Like, I don't understand why he's pulling this kind of comparison. Like, the only difference with Belle is that she's like an engineer. She's the one who engineered the washing machine, right? Hermione could never.
Hermione is more concerned with forcing her opinions on people and prioritizing getting to say, I told you so, with even her attempts at standing up for the little guy being a sign of her arrogance and lack of self-awareness. Hell, Hermione herself admits that Harry is a better person than her because of his bravery and willingness to do the right thing.
Me.
Not me. Not Hermione.
Books.
You.
Madness. important things.
Belle, however, is not some misguided rabble-rouser who goes for low-hanging fruit. She's actually quite a weirdo, since the lyrics of the song named after her include, "She really is a funny girl."
You know what? I genuinely believe that Belle would have been like a book talk girly, fan fiction girly, like the kind of weirdos who read crack fan fiction, who probably watch AMVs because she likes to take adventure. Or you know what? She seems like a gamer. You know what I mean? Because she likes to go off on these quote unquote adventures in her books. Give her a good like storytelling video game. I bet she's a gamer. Also a reader. She's a fucking nerd, and I appreciate that about her.
And
Love
she's
that.
nothing like the rest of us. She reads fairy tales and dreams of having adventures.
Oh,
and if
yes.
she were around today, she'd be reading manga and probably writing fan fiction.
Oh no! Oh yes, yes! I'm telling you, she is a fucking nerd. I'm sorry, I'm peeking. I'm so excited. I love
The
this.
song reveals that Romeo and Juliet is her
No, not
favorite
even halfway
play,
there. I gotta
and
pick it
that's
up.
one a lot of intellectuals are quick to scoff at.
My sin is
Ugh. Ugh. Bruh.
Belle has a lot more in common with Ariel,
Nerd alert.
in that both of them are weird girls who find men that love them for their eccentricities.
I actually thought so. My sister's growing up. My sister's favorite princess was Ariel, right? And my favorite princess was Belle. And we always thought they would actually be friends, like because of Ariel and Belle's curiosity.
And the things that have them pegged as misfits in their communities. And although Belle isn't
Also
close
true.
to being my favorite princess, she really is a great character, and I can definitely
She's my favorite.
understand why she's one of the most popular. But it's time for my second favorite.
It's also my second favorite.
Fun fact, Jasmine is actually the only Disney princess in the official lineup that isn't the main character in her film.
Also
and
true.
we can credit my friend Song the Genius for making me realize that Aladdin is the rare thing known as a Disney prince film.
Okay, first of all, Aladdin wasn't the first Disney Prince film. It was, in fact, Sleeping Beauty, and I will die on that hill. Okay, let's go.
We could use more of that. So Jasmine is mainly seen through Aladdin's perspective and acts as a supporting character.
Also
Not
true,
every
like, this is
gal has
good.
to be the lead.
Mhm.
She's living proof that a supporting character can be iconic in her own right.
I'm a fast learner.
I also think that we need to have stronger male characters, like male-centered animated films like this. I think that's why I like Treasure Planet and like Atlantis, because it doesn't squarely. Well, this is good for men, like romantic men, like men who love the romance. But I also like that there are more male-centered adventures. 'Cause those two, Treasure Planet and Atlantis, are my two favorite films of all Disney. Like, I love them.
She's also Disney's first brown princess, and I would
Yes.
indeed call this good representation.
Yes!
The debate about Aladdin's cultural accuracy and Orientalism can never truly be answered.
Well, it's because it's supposed to. They're supposed to be in a fictional area too, like a fantasy, like an Arabic fantasy area.
But take a look at the classic three princesses.
Mhm.
Snow White has a 1930s bob in medieval Europe, and
Mhm.
Aurora is outright said to be living in the 14th century, with her neckline resembling 1950s high fashion. So Jasmine having a historically inaccurate costume isn't exactly the exception here. And quickly debunking another myth, she's not actually 15 about to turn 16. That seems to be confusing an earlier draft that was nixed specifically because Jeffrey Katzenberg was disturbed by the idea of 15-year-olds being forced into marriage.
Okay, thank
Ariel
God.
At least had a time.
I think I do remember she's supposed to be 18 for that
to
reason.
her wedding.
Law says you must be married to a prince by your next birthday.
But going back to the
I used to think it would say 16 too, by your 16th birthday, but I think it is next.
notion of Disney princesses being quite subversive, Jasmine is actually the first of the princesses to have grown up in the palace setting.
True.
Since Snow White and Aurora grew up in poverty, Cinderella and Belle married into royalty, and Ariel was a mermaid.
Okay, first of all, Ariel was a mermaid, but she was still a royal. You cannot disclose that. Like, she earned her royalty title, okay?
And already in 1992, Disney was shedding some light on the difficulties a princess might face, since Jasmine's father is pressuring her to marry, and she at one point nearly gets forced into an engagement with Jafar.
Oh my God. Even even now, I'm just like, that was so disgusting.
Then
Like, it's
maybe
like,
I don't want to be a princess anymore.
tell him.
Jasmine considers giving up that life and runs away, but in a very interesting twist, getting a taste of what a commoner goes through makes her realize the advantages of being a princess, and she's actually the first Disney princess we see attempt to use her authority to help those less fortunate.
Bro, I loved that. Like, she did a complete 180 when she finally saw the outside world and realized, maybe this outside world isn't for me. I'm going to be a princess. No, I'm just kidding. She saw what life was like outside, especially how they treated like Aladdin, and was like, you know what? I got the power. I got the knowledge. I have the political, like, what is it? Knowledge to be able to do this. I can do this. And so she does. She was like, that one time where I gave up my quote unquote, what is it? Princess privilege. I realized, no, I need it because look at this shit.
Later
The
affirming that
injustice.
she'll be staying in the palace to work within the system,
Yep.
which is motivated by learning that Jafar is undermining her father's authority to have innocent people executed. Also, he
Also
says.
true.
When I am queen, I will have the power to get rid of you.
Tell her.
But Jasmine also maintains her self-respect, as even though she's willing to marry to use the situation to her benefit, she won't just choose anyone.
How dare you?
Yes.
All of you standing around
See those shame faces? They should be ashamed. And I love that she shames them. Look at them.
deciding my future? I am not a prize to be won.
Tell her.
She gets this fantastic moment, and once again, an outspoken young woman who commands respect encourages a man to better himself to become worthy of her. This isn't like the toxic I can change him scenario in the 2019 Little Women, since Aladdin is already a good person just trying to be something he's not when he doesn't have to be. And
I think that's what's so good about this film. It's like Aladdin, the only, like, his personality never changes. Well, he tries to act fake, but like in deep down, his personality never changes. He's always been himself, but he just wants to be like, it's the outward portrayal of a prince instead of like, you know what I mean?
he changes his behavior to respond to what Jasmine wants.
You aren't just some prize to be won. You should be free to make your own choice.
That was so smart. I always thought that was such, like, he scared her and surprised her.
It's not her princess status that makes him fall for her, but rather seeing her show kindness to a child on the street who can't afford food, and being impressed with
Yes.
how quickly she plays along to his ruse to fool the vendor.
I'm gonna go see the doctor.
Oh, hello, Doctor. How are you?
He falls for her personality,
Yeah.
and quickly learns that she won't be won over with superficial trinkets that the genie conjures up. Like the beast with Belle, Aladdin listens to what Jasmine actually says, remembering how she feels trapped, and taking her on an exciting magic carpet ride.
So romantic. Okay, she deserves that.
Making sure she herself enjoys the experience.
We could get out of the palace, see the world.
Jasmine, as the third 90s princess, also continues the blurring of the Madonna whore complex
Oh,
that
true.
Ariel had also done, since her default outfit was a seashell bra. But Jasmine has a whole sequence where Jafar forces her into his version of the slave Leia bikini in what TV Tropes calls go-go enslavement. It's got to be my second favorite trope name after Diamonds in the Buff. But Jasmine turns the situation to her advantage.
Like, she is so smart. That's why I love Jasmine. Even if it means making her feel uncomfortable, she'd do it to save, like, her man.
Tricking Jafar into thinking the genie has made her fall in love with him, and even kissing him to cause a distraction, making her the only princess to lock lips with the movie's villain. And although she ends up imprisoned in an hourglass for the finale, she does not fit the parameters for the dreaded damsel in distress label. Since
she was being punished, right?
To qualify, she'd have to be a complete innocent who has nothing to do with the conflict, and she was actively trying to get the lamp before Jafar, and had previously tried to fight him off, meaning she inserted herself into a combat situation. There was an early idea where she would break herself out of the hourglass using the jewel on her headband, but presumably that was changed when this red costume came into the picture.
Yeah.
I kind of would have preferred Jasmine to free herself in this situation, since Aladdin does enough already in the climax.
True.
But you could argue that she in fact saves Aladdin afterwards.
That stupid law. This isn't fair. I love you.
Aww.
Sultan changes the law.
This is a woman who knows what she wants and she goes after it. Wait, has there ever been did they ever mention what kind of sign she is? I'm curious. But anyway, this is a woman who goes after what she wants. And she's like, you know what? I love you. It's not fair because I love you. And it's just not fair. And like, I love
causing
Jasmine.
all that conflict, meaning that Jasmine can now choose whichever husband she deems most worthy, and she happily looks past class differences
Yes.
and chooses Aladdin without hesitation.
Straight up.
I choose you.
Although I doubt anyone who isn't a sad human being would say this is presenting a woman as a trophy or reward, if anyone does try to say that, I offer up a counter-argument. This movie presents us with a poor street urchin with no family, no money, no castle,
Yes.
no room full of books, no ship or carriage, no weapons to kill wicked witches with, and of course, no title.
Yep.
Just himself, his kindness, and his goodness.
No, I would say just himself and his cleverness. That's it. Like he's been kind and good. He shares his food and everything, even though he has nothing, and lives in like a wreckage among the wreckage. That. I'm sorry, this is a good. I paused at a good time. He actually is like he's very clever. Like he's so street smart, more so than Aurora. Can't believe you said that about her.
As well as quick thinking in tight situations.
Yes.
And the movie says that he is just as worthy of being noticed and valued as any
Yes.
prince.
Yes.
The same way that, say, Cinderella did for the female lead. There were supposedly plans for a brother franchise to the Disney Princess line featuring these male heroes that got scrapped in favor of marketing the Marvel and Star Wars stuff to boys.
Okay. I can't see the beast in that though. That, you know what? Okay,
Which
kinda
I
glad.
can't help but think is a bit of a shame. Since you would all be surprised if I said that out of all the princes, Philip from Sleeping Beauty is actually my favorite.
Oh my gosh! I'm telling you, it's his film. I'm telling you, that is his film.
And a franchise giving him a little more does give me thought. And while Disney has
deserves.
no shortage of male leads, we are still a little starved on good
I do think that Hercules would be considered another Disney Prince movie. You know,
ones, specifically in the fairy tale.
among wreckage. Living among the wreckage is what I was trying to say. Oh gosh.
Films. Since
But
we
yes,
have
wreckage and
Aladdin,
wreckage, and
Philip,
more wreckage.
and I guess Flynn/Eugene. But I'm getting sidetracked here. So to reiterate, Jasmine, number 2 in my list of favorite Disney princesses.
Agreed. She's
and
awesome.
coincidentally, number 3 is next.
I don't know. I think Pocahontas used to be my top 5. She used to be my top 5, but I don't know. I wish they could have done I think they could have done her better, I think.
Another one I already did a video on back when I had no clue what I was doing, and another one where she gets
I
overshadowed
love
by a
that
preference
scene.
issue.
I love him, Father.
For some, the historical inaccuracy is a make or break situation, but as another friend put it recently, the debate about accuracy means that people overlook how great a character Pocahontas actually is.
Also true. So my thing is this. I wish, because, you know, now with everyone now noticing that, like, the historical inaccuracies, right? Because Pocahontas was indeed a real person. I wish they would have changed the name, because Pocahontas was not this old, right? They should have just changed the name to Pocahontas. And John Smith's name too, by the way. Well, John Smith, I guess, is a very common name for England. But you know what I mean? Like, they should have just changed the names. If they changed the name of the 2 main characters, I think it would have been fine. I think that's it.
Stand back.
I won't!
She's Disney's second brown princess, and the first to unambiguously be the lead of her movie.
Yes.
Even drifting into risque territory involving interracial romance.
Yes!
As well as being voiced by an actress of the corresponding race. And I've often considered doing a list on the top, say, 25 voice performances in Disney films, with Robin Williams as the genie being my number 2.
Wait, really? Robin Williams as the genie, I think, is just too iconic. It would have to be number 1. Just because, well, I guess there are some other. I think it's just, it fits him so well.
Jodie Benson as Ariel being my number 1. You know who my
Jodie
number
Benson.
3 would be?
This is the path I choose, Father. What will yours be?
Pocahontas is also a movie that has lots of discourse from people who haven't actually seen it, or at least aren't willing to look at it constructively, because some of the takes I've seen really misrepresent it. And here's the first big truth bomb. Pocahontas is not a white savior movie.
I agree. I hate when people mention that. I mean, if you've ever just sat down and watched the film, you realize that it's not a white savior. Are you kidding me?
Starters, which character is the film named after?
Duh.
Who is the main character?
Duh.
Yeah, we're introduced to John Smith.
Fuck that
in
guy.
English first, but
And
we meet Eric
him.
before Ariel and Jafar before Aladdin, and there's no doubt who those movies are about. Avatar gets compared to Pocahontas a lot.
Okay. I don't care what he says. Avatar is a Pocahontas film. Straight up. It is a Pocahontas film. And I'm not talking about like I should say it has the exact same formula as Pocahontas. That's what I mean when I say it's a Pocahontas film. Because it follows the exact same formula, except instead of the point of view of Pocahontas, you get the point of view of John Smith.
But Jake is clearly the main character in the former, and Pocahontas is in
See,
the latter.
that-
We've shown the Na'vi through Jake's perspective, but the Powhatans through no one's perspective.
That's what I'm
of their
telling you.
own.
Oh, bro.
Pocahontas is the one who drives the story, and John reacts to her, with everything hinging on her.
It also doesn't take away that's still a Pocahontas film. It's just changing their perspective. That's it.
Her feelings and motivations.
You have to stop them.
I can't.
John is the dude in distress for the third act, and it falls to Pocahontas to save him. About the
Also
only
true.
time a white character saves someone is John taking a bullet meant for Chief Powhatan.
Yes!
But again, that happens only after Pocahontas saves him, so we can give her the credit for that too.
Damn
in
right.
fact, the movie's most famous song is Colors of the Wind, and what actually prompts Pocahontas to sing it?
Our houses are fine.
You
Tell
think that only because you don't know any better.
Oh, bro, you see that face? If anyone tells me that, I'd be like, That's when she realized, this guy's an idiot.
Pocahontas schools the ignorant white boy on his views,
Boom.
calls him on using a racial slur, and launches into a spectacular musical number showing him how her culture is just as valid as his. And guys, Pocahontas was on Team Bear. You could argue that Pocahontas is in fact a deconstruction of a white savior movie, since the English settlers are introduced having entitled views towards the New World.
Then if we're talking about it as a deconstruction of a white savior movie, so would freaking Avatar be a deconstruction of a white savior movie? Because it's like, again, one guy who is trying to understand a culture. It's just difference in perspective.
Specifically so the movie can prove them wrong.
Mhm.
Remember Wiggins's line?
Why do you think
I love this line.
Indians attacked us?
Because we invaded their land and cut down their trees and dug up their earth.
I never saw
love
this
that
movie's
line.
message as trying to present both sides as intolerant, although the defanged lyrics to savages definitely don't help.
They're all disgusting racist like a curse.
More so, Pocahontas' appeal to her father as a call to set an example and be the bigger person, to show they're not the savages they've been painted as, with the very valid point that innocent people are going to be hurt in any war situation, and that wars only happen because someone at the top is profiting from them.
They let him go. They don't want to fight. It's a trick, don't you see?
Oh.
A very simplified version since it's Disney, but still not a terrible message, all things considered.
I don't know about that.
This is where the
As much as like I get the message of Pocahontas, I can understand why they think that it's like a preachy message or whatever. I've seen worse in like movies nowadays, I believe. However, I don't know. I don't think it's like meh.
Path of hatred has brought us.
Pocahontas herself also gets misremembered as a one-dimensional, airy-fairy sort who plays
I hate
the
that.
Indian maiden trope absurdly straight, which, again, seems to come from people who either didn't watch the movie or only saw it once.
The tree is talking to me.
Then you should talk back.
First of all, Pocahontas has a very childish, playful side.
I
and
love
is seen
that.
as somewhat unusual even by her best friend, who, by the way, we also love. Moment of appreciation for Nakoma.
She is a real one. Nakoma is a real one. Even in the second film, when she gets to date, she's like, "Ooh, Pocahontas, Nakoma."
What are you doing here?
I had to see you again.
There's also
Okay, and not only that, Nakoma tells Coco. Was it Coco? Yes, because first of all, Pocahontas never told her about this white man, right? So she's trying to save her friend and like protect her from any danger of them going off together by herself. She's like, you know what? I need another guy to come and just watch her, like over her for me because she's going off with a stranger. Nakoma is a real friend. And if we're doing, I would love to do a video on side characters because Nakoma's up there. Like,
Quite a
she's
lot of
looking out for
comedy
her
in
girl.
That one song that's mined from just how clueless she is that her joyriding is terrifying poor Miko.
Hey.
And the first bit of conflict with her character is dismay at being expected to marry someone more serious, and therefore have to give up her fun-loving lifestyle.
Yes!
And one could even interpret her following John at first to be motivated by seeing whether she could leave her tribe and join them for a different life.
I disagree. I think the whole point of her following John Smith is just because she's so curious and she's a risk taker. So she just wants to see how he is like close up. Not necessarily to live that kind of life. I don't really see that in the movie. I just think that she's just never seen a man like him before. So of course she's very curious.
Only then realizing she prefers it among the rest of the Powhatans when she sees how the English view her and the rest of her people. After which, she suggests that John stay with her.
I've never really belonged anywhere.
I think that's the only thing that I saw was that she suggests that John stay with her.
You could belong here.
Pocahontas also gets angry more than once throughout the movie.
Yes!
First in the aforementioned scene where John disrespects her culture, and later when Thomas shoots Kocoum, where John has to restrain her from attacking him right back.
He was only...
He killed him!
She also goes to pieces in the third act, best underlined in the deleted song If I Never Knew You.
It's no longer deleted. You should listen to it. Although, I don't know, Mel Gibson's voice in this is kind of meh.
Which I consider canon, where she's allowed to be vulnerable so John can reassure her for a change.
So dry your eyes.
And I will always find the climax epic.
Yes!
Where Pocahontas runs through the crowd and puts herself between John and her father to stop the execution.
The tension, and like, I've seen this movie so many times, but every time the scene goes, during the song Savages, and she does that, my heart still pounds. Like, the way that they timed it, especially like, what is it, Chief Powhatan swinging and then just immediately diverting the hammer when he sees her daughter, like that kind of reaction time. Oh my God, that tension,
If you
love
kill
it.
him, you'll have to kill me too.
It was my first taste of a thriller. You know what I mean?
This gal prevents an entire war by appealing to her father as a daughter, and also proves that she doesn't care what happens to her, as she will not stand by and let an innocent person be killed, especially since Kocoum got killed himself because he attacked John just for kissing her,
True.
and even knocked Pocahontas to the ground when she tried to intervene. And with the tensions between both sides at their highest, she bravely declares that she loves John, who we should also remind ourselves challenged the others when they tried to call the Powhatans savages.
There's no room for their kind in civilized society. But this is their land.
She doesn't just fall in love with the first white man she sees. She falls for a man who demonstrates kindness to animals, shows that he can change his views when shown another perspective, and will also stand up for her in light of peer pressure. She falls for a man with integrity, and he does likewise. And for all the PR nonsense about how the next version of Snow White won't be sitting around dreaming about her prince and instead will be trying to become the leader she knows she can be, Disney already had a princess who did just that, who in fact chose not to be with the man she loved because her people needed her more.
I'm needed here.
I remember seeing that. It broke my heart, but I understood. Like, she couldn't go back because she wanted to stay with her family. I love that for her.
Pocahontas is a fantastic character, and Irene Bedard's performance is equally great.
Yes.
Unfortunately, how many leading roles has she had in mainstream films since then? Pocahontas still remains one of the only Hollywood films with an indigenous woman as the main character, with there not being another until arguably The New World in 2005, which was another Pocahontas story, in which Irene plays her mother this time.
Oh.
And even more recent instances like Prey and Killers of the Flower Moon still feeling quite rare.
I was about to say, Killers of the Flower Moon was the most recent with, what's his name? Leonardo DiCaprio.
And Disney's version sticks out because Pocahontas at least gets to be a fun character who does cool things and saves the day, with the narrative not being completely about colonialism and oppression. And while I doubt any exec would have the guts to sign off on a live-action remake, it would provide an opportunity for a young indigenous actress the same way the animated one did for Irene Bedard back in the 90s. And at least she's had repeated work voicing Pocahontas as part of the Disney Princess franchise. And hey, we've already covered moments like this.
You know what's also interesting? I saw her at a convention. I believe it was MomoCon a few years back. So I met her, or I didn't meet her, but like I saw her at the convention. She was doing a panel.
Pocahontas is actually one of my most favorite Disney characters. Not only because finally
Like,
they
she
had a
looks so
princess that
beautiful,
kind of looked
man.
like me.
So the existence of this character seems to spell out more good for the world than bad.
What do you say to a tree?
Anything you want.
The same can definitely be said for...
Mulan.
I feel like I don't need to defend Mulan so much as debunk a lot of misrepresentations surrounding her.
Damn
although
right.
some of them complain about her being in the Disney Princess franchise to begin with, so it's a very relevant debate.
Okay, I'm so sorry. She saved an entire freaking country. I think she deserves to be in the Disney Princess lineup. Okay? Oh, bro, it is not only the biggest, it's the fucking biggest country, Asian country at the time. She did that.
The flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and beautiful.
Damn
For
straight.
gals who are far more tomboyish than outright nerdy, Mulan tends to be their favourite, and it used to be a personal running gag in my life that I would joke to these people, someone doesn't like women. Mulan often gets hailed as the best princess because, quoting one lady from about 10 years ago, she's the only one with balls. You see, Mulan became something of a figurehead for N-logs and anyone who hates traditional femininity, since her storyline involves disguising herself as a man so she can fight in the war, making her a sort of PG G.I. Jane, complete with important haircut scene. So how dare Disney label her a princess?
Okay, I will also not tolerate Mulan hate in my house. One, she didn't do it just so she could do it, right? She did it to protect her dad, because she was like, my dad can't fight in a war. He's gonna die. Like, he has a limp. Like, he's a cripple, and he's old. And of course they had no sons, so she made the tough decision, standing under that dragon statue, wanting to fight. And she's like, I'm not gonna let my dad fight. It's gonna be me, like, just because we don't have a son.
Which is such a girly title, and therefore imply that she's like one of those weak girly girls who sit around singing about princes wearing sparkly dresses and having to be saved by men. Interestingly enough, this misunderstanding can be best understood in the difference between A Song of Ice and Fire Arya Stark and Game of Thrones Arya. The book version doesn't necessarily hate feminine things so much as wishing they weren't forced on her because she's no good at them, especially when she has an older sister who's far better at that sort of thing that everyone compares her to. The show version begins in a similar way, but by season 2 she gets lines like this.
Most girls are idiots.
Mulan doesn't necessarily hate feminine things, since she wears 3 different dresses throughout the movie.
Straight up.
And she in fact wants to make her family proud, even tweaking the makeover she gets for the matchmaker to suit her preferences.
Yep.
The issue is that Mulan is worried she will dishonor her family by not being good at the things expected of her.
See, I also would like to point out that during the fight, the final fight, she does choose to be in a dress. She just, she could have continued looking like a soldier with pants and stuff, but she didn't do that. Like, not at all. She was like, you know what, I'm going to fight in this dress.
The story is very heavily influenced by Chinese traditions of filial piety, in other words, showing love and respect for your parents.
Mulan, you dishonor me.
Mulan doesn't hate femininity or think girly girls are stupid.
No.
Rather, she realizes how much work goes into being a good wife and has a massive heaping of imposter syndrome, not comprehending how much her father truly loves her and is proud of her for what she's already good at.
Yes!
The greatest gift and honor is having you for a daughter.
It's very similar to Jo from Little Women, which is why I can't get behind the ending Greta Gerwig gives her in the 2019 film. She didn't hate...
I hear about the 2019 Little Women, like, being a very good film. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard good and bad things about it.
Marriage, but rather feared the loss of her independence, which is solved by finding a man who's an intellectual match for her and values her for who she already is. And that's another thing I want to focus on when people go on about how Mulan is the most badass Disney princess or the only strong one.
No!
Mulan's biggest virtue isn't her physical
Okay, first of all, what do you mean she's the strongest? Have you not? Ariel swims every day of her life. Have you ever seen a swimmer's body? Like, they are cooked. Okay? And not only that, did you not see Pocahontas fucking climb freaking cliffs and trees and, like, hop off that canoe, like, to a tree? Bro. Nah. Mm-mm. Oh, and Kita. And if we're talking Atlantis, Kita could fucking kill a guy.
strength, but her cleverness.
Also
She's
true.
already come up with a system to make doing her chores easier, with her main flaw being that she's sometimes too impulsive, which is what leads to her making a spectacle of herself with the matchmaker. And when she's failed so badly at training she's told to just go home, Her cleverness helps her realize how
True.
to retrieve the arrow and earn Shang's respect.
I do appreciate that. Yeah, she has, like, she shows her workout routine and whatever. But it's literally her brains that are getting her out. Like, she's just so clever. She reminds me a lot of, like, Aladdin, trying to find loopholes and everything, right?
Likewise, when they're facing the entire Hun army with only one cannon left, it's Mulan's idea to
Yes.
use the cannon to cause an avalanche that wipes out the majority of their enemies.
So
And
smart.
that's how she defeats Shan Yu at the end.
You don't have a plan?
Hey, I'm making this up as I go.
Oh, and the way she disarms him? That's an actual martial arts technique that someone on the production team knew, so they just added it in.
I'm telling you, like, Mulan is so fucking smart to come up with a plan like that. Oh my god.
And as said earlier, Mulan fails multiple times. She's allowed to mess up and be terrible at things she hasn't tried yet, but she applies what she already has and achieves success by working for it. Female characters just don't normally get to have those stories.
No.
Because they're either written by men who are afraid of being called sexist if they show a female character with any apparent flaw, or by women working through some shit. Mulan is not a good character because she kicks names and takes butt, although that is very fun to watch too. She has a journey that's very relatable, and manages to be both affirmational and aspirational, putting...
This is what I would consider a very good Disney, like, coming of age story. Because this is literally just her coming of age. Like, she knows that, you know, she's a misfit, but bro, she also knows her strengths by the end of the movie.
Putting the message forth that the screw-up with imposter syndrome can be the hero if they want. And for all the bad faith takes that say Mulan had to become a man to succeed, she doesn't truly save the
I don't
day
believe
until
that.
she's wearing a dress. Which is actually a departure from the original, where she successfully keeps her disguise until the war is over, and her comrades don't find out she's a woman until they visit her later.
No.
And again, her cleverness is something she already had before she disguised herself.
Mulan, what's this?
Notes? In case I forget something?
She a little cheater. She's a cheater!
Then there's the weird take that her turning down a position on the Emperor's Council is implying that women shouldn't have too much power. Which, borrowing one of Liana's quotes, is such projection it may as well be the Dark Knight in IMAX.
Oh my
I
god.
think I've been away from home long enough.
It's more empowering if she just doesn't go back to be with the father she joined the army to save. Ariel gets for leaving home, and Mulan gets it for going back.
Okay, I disagree with that. I think with her going, I never thought that she should have stayed, right? To get like a high paid position. Because Mulan, throughout the entire film, only thinks about her family. And she's like, all right, job done. Time to go home. I brought honor. I hope my dad doesn't hate me. That's it.
Even though it's what both characters want, while Hercules giving up his godhood for Meg is considered noble, projection.
Yeah.
Besides that, Mulan returning home also solves the conflict she had at the start about being a good wife, and potentially dishonoring the family.
You don't meet a girl like that every dynasty.
Now that she's a war hero and been given the highest honor from
Yes!
the Emperor, it's safe to say she ain't gonna have a problem finding a husband now, even with Shang already being interested in her, which is what Mulan wanted. She gets a man who respects her and views her as an equal, and the movie even subversively leaves it a little open by not showing a wedding or a big dramatic kiss.
That's true.
But instead, Mulan asking him to stay for dinner and letting our minds decide where they go from there.
Would you like to stay forever?
I've noticed that it's Mulan.
And if you watch the second film, they do end up getting, or they're trying to get married. They're engaged, I think. But other than that, don't watch the second film. It's.
In addition to Belle, who gets
Well, actually, you should probably watch the second film. Just watch towards the end, because that's when things get good.
projected onto the most by people clearly lacking in self-validation, kind of like when Harry Potter fans flip the f*** out over Hermione wearing a pink dress to the Yule Ball, as opposed to the blue outfit from the books. Mulan wore 3 different dresses in the movie, the other princesses stood up for what they believed in, and all of them demonstrated strength in their own ways. It's not an insult for Mulan to be included as a Disney princess.
No, I agree. I think Mulan has earned her place, in all honesty. I think she's earned her place. And I do remember, because I think this film came out in 1997, 1998, something like that, how when they finally released her to be like a Disney princess, like there was like, oh my gosh, she's a Disney princess. But honestly, I mean, saving an entire country is she's doing a lot. Like,
Even though we
she's
know the
doing a
main
lot.
reason she's in the line is to make it look more diverse. Rather,
Also
having
true, but
Mulan
she
in
earns
the
it.
lineup sends the message that there are different types of strength, and that princess can mean something different to everyone.
Yes.
So I'm officially on the side that favors Mulan being considered a Disney princess.
You fight good.
Before I move on to the final princess,
Okay, so remember, this is defending every Disney princess except Tiana, which is saying something because I actually really like Tiana. So I'm curious to know how good this
I also
is.
just want to sing the praises of several heroines who didn't get included in the lineup, but are really great characters.
Oh,
anyway.
Esmeralda. Okay, top 3 princesses. I still think Esmeralda's a princess because she's like, let's just say Disney heroines, okay? Belle, Jasmine, Esmeralda. Yeah, top 3. I just love women who can kick my
You
ass.
stand on your head.
Disney's Alice will forever be my favourite iteration of the character, and Catherine Beaumont's vocal performance is truly as iconic as those of the princesses.
But didn't you just say? I mean, oh dear.
Even
I
though
like
I'm
the
not
way
one
that
of
they
the Black
portray her as
Cauldron's
like a kid.
defenders, I can appreciate Princess Ailonwy, who was also designed by Glenn Keane, who's responsible for my favourite princess. Esmeralda isn't just Demi Moore's finest hour as an actress.
Yes!
Yet
I cannot see her any, like, Demi Moore's voice for Esmeralda is just too perfect.
including G.I. Jane, but she is probably one of Disney's top 10 characters of all time.
Agreed.
You speak of justice, yet you are cruel to those most in need of your help.
Silence!
Justice!
Meg
Tell him! Oh my god, I love
Eyes
her.
is so good, I consider Hades the second most appealing thing about Hercules, and as I always say, Susan Egan kills this role.
I also love Susan Egan. I love Meg. I love her and her sass and like, oh my god. I think she's top 5. Mm-hmm.
Cute. A couple of rodents looking for a theme park.
Meg's voice also suits Meg. Like, I don't see anybody else trying to voice Megara. No.
Jane from
It's just going to be Ida the Owl Lady for the rest of her life.
Tarzan is also very underrated, and Minnie Driver is just magnificent.
I'm in a tree with a man who talks to monkeys.
And long before Elsa made headlines for supposedly becoming the first princess to ascend to queen status in a Disney movie, we have this lady from Atlantis the Lost Empire, which is a movie I have to do a video on one day, and following tradition, voiced by the legendary Cree Summer in my favourite of her roles. Nani is also an unsung heroine along with Lilo, and then we get to...
Okay, I actually really like Tiana, and this is coming... All right, I will say this. I get that he has problems with Tiana and whatever, but this was during the time... It was 2009 when it was released, so by that point I've already... I shouldn't say my age, but I was old enough to realize, like, they had so many setbacks. The Princess and the Frog had so many setbacks. They were like under a very critical eye from like Disney fans. Like, it was incredibly critical. Like, I remember there were like multiple articles about Tiana, what was that? Prince Naveen not being fully black. But Prince Naveen is from a fantasy country, so he's a brown character, brown prince.
Tiana was not only the first princess created after the line was established, and therefore the first to be formally inducted into it, but she also sprang into existence after the internet became widespread, and 2000 cynicism meant that it was open season on Disney for sending horrible messages to children, especially girls. And with
That's the thing. I feel like those are the loud minorities saying things about like these Disney princesses.
Tiana being the first African-American princess, she was under twice as much scrutiny.
Yes!
It could be a little bit.
Yes, she was under so much scrutiny, and there were so many articles proving that.
The film was dogged by criticism from the beginning, including the New Orleans setting being an insult to the victims of Hurricane Katrina, the use of a voodoo witch doctor as the villain,
Also
and
remember
even
that.
the original Frog Princess title being seen as offensive to the French. Tiana herself was a magnet for every criticism under the sun, not limited to her plan name Maddie sounding too similar to Mammy, and her initially going to be a chambermaid rather than a waitress. leading to them hiring Oprah Winfrey as a consultant for damage control and casting her as the voice of Tiana's mother.
Well, you wish on that star, sweetheart.
Not helping matters was the clear attempt to avoid controversy by making the movie's prince ambiguously brown-skinned with green eyes, an Indian name, voiced by a Brazilian actor, and hailing from a fictional country when the movie is quite clearly set in 1920s Louisiana.
I cannot tell you when all the controversies that he stated has been absolutely true, because I was there for all of them. And I remember that, like, I didn't know much of the character of Tiana being like a chambermaid and whatever, but I do remember that they pretty much, they were like, Disney were releasing clips, like little inside clips on the movie, like clips from the film on YouTube. And they released so much that when I went to see it in theaters, they almost, like, I just realized that they released practically the whole movie. Like, Disney failed this movie so much. I think because, like, I'm glad they brought Oprah Winfrey to do damage control and whatever, but I think they were just, like, trying to walk on eggshells instead of creating, like, the story itself. And I get the ambiguous, like I said before, I remember that whole ambiguously brown prince and that everyone was losing their shit about
For
just
those who
that.
don't remember, this was the era of a movie like Hitch having to cast Eva Mendes as Will Smith's love interest because a white actress would supposedly turn audiences away and a black actress would make it a black movie. So you can already tell that Disney was walking a very thin line creatively, especially with it not mattering that most of the memes about their past films were misrepresenting them.
You gotta help it along with some hard work of your own.
They would get slightly better at working with this.
Yeah.
Since although Moana is very safe from a writing point of view, and a little cliched, the music still has a lot of flair, the story is about her discovering great things about her culture, and our Lee Carvalho gives it her all.
Yes! Oh, the music in Moana is just so good. I don't know about Moana 2. I'm not gonna lie.
While Anika Noni Rose is good in the role, she's not given much material to really stand alongside the other princesses because the movie is so concerned with pandering to the critics.
Yes!
So much so that Tiana's I Want song is a 3-minute lecture on working hard, and she stops in the middle of another scene after she's made her mistake to again preach to the audience, or more specifically, the folks who sustain themselves on bad faith criticism.
God, yeah.
The only way to get what you want in this world is through hard work.
At least when Pocahontas and Esmeralda preached, it was for an issue that was actually relevant.
Okay, I don't think that she's preaching about hard work. I think that they're trying to portray her as a workaholic, because that's exactly what she is. She's a workaholic. And she doesn't know how to let loose and have fun. She's got a stick up her ass. Because even in the party, she has to work. Like, I don't think it's... I disagree with him on that term. I think it's just she only says it not to preach at you, but because they're trying to tell you that she's a workaholic.
Tiana is responding to a criticism and an outrage that was never truly a thing. Snow White literally cleaned an entire house and cooked dinner for 7 people the same day she was told she had to run for her life because her stepmother wanted her dead. Cinderella worked herself to exhaustion every day. Aurora clearly contributed to the cottage she lived in. Ariel saved an innocent person's life. Belle is shown maintaining her home. Jasmine specifically tried to use her authority as a princess to make things better in the kingdom. Pocahontas stopped a war. Mulan won a war. All the princesses worked hard in their own ways. And while you could argue that Tiana's arc is in fact learning that she doesn't have to work herself to the bone, her growth is extremely minimal and shallow. In fact, both her and Naveen have the same mistake from a writing point of view, in that they have these flaws they need to overcome, but these flaws aren't what creates the story's conflict. Naveen looking for the easy way out isn't what turns him into a frog. Facilier offers him a classic Faustian bargain, but Naveen never accepts, and he's basically just mugged. Tiana's obsession...
Okay, I also thought that was true, because he was kind of coerced, you know? Very much coerced into doing all those things.
With hard work also isn't what turns her into a frog, since she kisses Naveen under the belief that he'll give her the money she needs to open her restaurant. And also, the lesson that she needs love is mangled by the fact that she wouldn't have met Naveen if she hadn't kissed him, and that she still gets the restaurant she wanted anyway. Her motivation is to work hard to make her father proud, and she thinks getting a restaurant he wanted is the way to do that.
Your daddy may not have gotten the place he always wanted, but he had something better.
She learns that her father not getting the restaurant didn't matter to him because he had a wife and daughter
Yes.
he loved, and apparently a community that we only see one brief snippet of. But when Tiana learns this and pursues Naveen,
My dream wouldn't be complete
Aww.
without you in it.
in effect giving up the material object she tied her identity to, she's still rewarded with it anyway. The character arcs in this movie are just very messy, and if it had spent less time hitting off a bunch of touch points and actually fine-tuning the story, and even then, I'm just not a fan of...
Okay, that I will agree with, because I will say that they were padding for time with Princess and the Frog. And I'm going to say this because Princess and the Frog is one of my comfort films to have in the background and stuff. I do like Princess and the Frog. I think the romance is cute, but their adventures in the bayou, I think they could have fleshed it out a little bit more. I feel like they were just padding for time, right? Just to get to Mama Odie, only to go way back to New Orleans, right? I can agree that the story is all over the place. I can also agree that they didn't give Anika Noni Rose a proper chance. Like, her songs, amazing. Her voice, fantastic. And like the music in this movie, I have the soundtrack. I love the music in this one, but I also like jazz. And it was like the good show tunes and stuff. However, they could have done more story-wise, plot-wise. Like, give me a good story, an adventure story. And they didn't do that. I don't think they captured that as much.
Bossy, wannabe girl boss learning to loosen up but still having it both ways and falling for a womanizer that made her kiss him under false pretenses as a character arc. And yes, it is quite conspicuous that Disney's first black princess is also the first princess to spend the majority of the movie turned into an animal that also conceals what race she is. Not to mention that the movie, designed to be a milestone of including a black princess, made the most entertaining character the white best friend.
Which we're going to talk about because I love Charlotte and I will not have any Charlotte slander in this house.
I read about true love and fairy tales and... Tia, you found it.
I don't necessarily think Tiana's a bad character or even bad representation, since she is beautifully designed and carefully given visibly black features, as opposed to, say, Jasmine being drawn to just be Middle Eastern Jennifer Connelly. And I think Almost There is an alright song, but she's the bullet points. I don't think Tiana just...
I also love this look. Her little 1920s, like, pixie cut. I love that.
Represents the beginning of a frustrating new trend that we would really see polluting the live-action remakes and having a heroine criticize non-issues that weren't even present in earlier Disney films. But she also feels like a missed opportunity. She's Disney's first princess that isn't subversive. John Musker and Lon Clements conceived Tiana as someone who would never have been a fan of Disney fairy tales, which may have been a well-meaning choice with the first black princess, but it ends up playing to the cliches of black girls being automatically smarter, less innocent, and more mature in what's called adultification. Like how it's Susie Carmichael in the Rugrats, who initially starts out being a very typical 3-year-old, but then evolves into someone very smart and mature for her age.
Oh yes, I can see that.
With how spoiled and immature Angelica is. Kerry Washington later said that the reason she took the thankless role of a woman in peril in Django Unchained was because so few movies had that sort of fairy tale theme where a black woman is this idealized figure a man loves so much he'd go to hell and back just to rescue her. I already talked about how Pocahontas actually broke stereotype in terms of the chief's daughter and Indian maiden tropes, and Mulan did likewise with the Lotus Blossom and Dragon Lady tropes.
True.
Tiana, unfortunately, is just very safe and sometimes even bland.
Okay, I can agree with that. I really wish they did more. Like, but I get that they played it safe. They played it so safe with Princess and the Frog. And I still was pissed about it when the movie came out, how safe they were trying to play it. Don't play it safe. Just like, bro, also Dr. Facilier, I get that they don't like witch doctors and whatever, but like this was a good villain. I really enjoyed it.
The movie's big climax between her and Facilier is actually the first time they interact in the whole story.
Think of all those naysayers
I don't believe that because she knew exactly who he was.
who doubted you.
They seem to know of each other.
Yeah, oh, there we go.
Zero connection between them, and Facilier isn't even tied to Tiana's main conflict. Brave got way more criticism than was arguably warranted, but you can't say
Also
that
true.
Merida didn't have a complete character arc that was actually subversive, in that it deconstructed the rebellious princess and had more of a focus on political intrigue rather than adventure. Everyone loves
Yeah. Okay.
Tangled, and part of
Love
that is
it.
because Rapunzel is a three-dimensional character.
Oh my god, Rapunzel is not only a 3D character, but she's actually a 3D. I love how they wrote her character. I love it so much that I saw the show, and the show was also good. They kept the character.
With the movie leaning into what it might be like to be raised by the Wicked Witch and be tricked into thinking
Yes!
she loves you. And while Frozen has its issues, Anna and Elsa are characters I just love. I was one of those annoying stans who had to play Let It Go on a loop. But
honestly,
it also be said that I fell in love with Kristen Bell in the last part for the first time in forever.
First of all, I'm not going to say anything bad about Frozen, not the Frozen, because I did like Frozen. It was so great for its time. And having two sisters represent like the different kinds of love that you could have, I thought that was great as well. Frozen 2, I don't know. Frozen
But
2.
again, once we get to Moana, we have some very safe heroines that just gave me lots of Disney fatigue.
Safe?
And so much so that the last Disney movie I saw in cinemas was
Yeah.
Frozen 2. And I still haven't seen Raya and the Last Dragon, but I've read enough discourse that tells me I really don't want to.
Okay, first of all, Raya and the Last Dragon is pretty good, but it's it's sapphic coded. I'm not gonna lie, in the best way, because I ship them. I ship her and her kid friend. Her childhood best friend, not kid friend. Childhood best friend. Holy shit.
I'm with the discourse regarding certain other princesses, so give me time. And I've way more than outstayed my welcome on this topic, so let's bring this magic carpet in for a steady landing.
Oh god.
I like to joke about how I've had a chip on my shoulder regarding this topic for several years.
I had the same thing. I didn't like when people are like, oh, well, they're problematic. No. Are they?
Ever since I went onto internet message boards and was told over and over about how Ariel was a bad role model, Belle had Stockholm Syndrome,
No.
Pocahontas was a Mary Sue, Mulan was too good to be labeled
Pocahontas and Mary Sue? Wait, what? Who said that?
princess, and the classic three were anti-feminist and therefore must be condemned.
I'm gonna just take Aurora out of this equation. Aurora, it wasn't even her movie.
I bought into some of it, with the gaslighting having enough of an effect on me that I was like, sure, that message in Frozen.
You can't marry a man you just met.
Okay, that's also that was very good. That line made me laugh.
I'd resigned myself to grudging acceptance that the memes and bad faith comedy articles would overwrite the actual movies in the minds of the general public.
Oh, that's true.
But I remember growing really fatigued by the time Gal Gadot was doing press for the Wonder Woman movie and excitedly talking about how her daughter would be looking up to Diana rather than the Disney princesses, which becomes extremely yikes in hindsight of what that character does in the second movie. And these days...
What is that? I've never seen the second film. But I did hear that was an issue. Shoot, I gotta check it out.
My empathy for the princess hate has officially run out. And because Disney to this day is still dead set on pandering to this bad faith criticism and trying to cast a wide net of appealing to everyone, I, who happily became a Disney adult when Frozen revived my interest all those years ago, have not watched a single animated film by them or Pixar since December 2019. And from reading the discourse surrounding Wish...
Oh my god. Oh my god.
That's not likely to change anytime soon.
I say they dropped the ball with Tiana, but they fucked up with Wish. I don't even remember the main character's name. In fact, I remember it being so bad that I had to message Abby and it was just so bad. I had to watch it high and I still couldn't watch it. That's how bad it was.
I can complain about current Disney all I want, and it's fun to roast the remakes, but I'll just say what comes to mind whenever someone...
Okay, I actually loved... Wait, hold on.
All I want, and it's fun to roast the remakes, but I'll just say...
This song, her voice, 10 out of 10. This song was everything. Loved it.
Say what comes to mind whenever someone complains about the remakes ruining their childhood and tarnishing the originals. They don't erase the originals from existence.
No.
And if anything, they make the originals stand out even more by virtue of demonstrating everything they did better. And ask anyone who their favourite princess is, and you will get a different answer. With
True that.
me also being told of a fun game where you could tell a lot about someone based on who their favourite is.
I already told you my top
Of course,
3.
I don't mean to invalidate anyone who connects to the recent princesses more than the classic ones, because, after all, as much as the bad faith argument tries to portray the franchise as something harmful or dangerous, we can't ignore that the princesses are all very distinct,
Very.
from different backgrounds and cultures, and with varying personalities and lifestyles. And even if I think Tiana is the weakest one, although from what I've read, I imagine Rhea might fill that category.
Okay, I don't think Rhea would be. Okay, I don't think Tiana was also the weakest one. I have to say Aurora is the weakest one for me. And I get that he has his own opinions on it, but just because I don't feel like that film is her film, like, at all.
It's mainly because her predecessors set the bar so high.
Also true.
If nothing else, we can all agree that they've never had a miss in terms of casting, with even a celebrity voice actress like Mandy Moore being absolutely perfect as Rapunzel. And while
I
Disney
agree.
might be going through a bit of an artistic slump right now, with this current one being especially unusual, there's bound to be another princess sometime in the future, and I'm not going to say she has big shoes to fill, whether they be made of glass or not. I'll just say, whatever she brings to this 100-year legacy, it better be positive. And if you're one of those parents who won't let their children watch Disney princess movies because they're supposedly harmful or anti-feminist, don't be surprised when they start rebelling by eating the forbidden pixie dust-covered fruit and see certain similarities between you and certain characters.
How dare you defy me?
But this has been an overlong saltfest, immaturely criticizing people for not liking the same things as me, and me white knighting for strong, independent women who don't need no man, and quite literally in the case of Pocahontas.
Yep, damn
so
right.
I salute all the princesses, and say, you're all queens to me, even the ones Disney didn't include.
I wish they could include it more. Okay, that took 2 hours. Holy shit, that took 2 hours. Well, almost 2 hours. That's not too bad. I did pretty well, considering all things considered. Well, that has been. I'm so glad I got to watch it because I still want to talk about it because I'm a Disney freak person. I agree to a lot of those claims. I have to say though, the worst Disney princess would still be Aurora. Because half the stuff is just her reacting to the people around her doing things. You know what I mean? Like, most of it is just reactionary. I mean, there was, like, when she was daydreaming, that was about it. But everything else has been, like, that's my opinion. I think Tiana, they definitely dropped the ball on Tiana. Which, also, they had, what is her name from Wish? Wish movie. Let me see, what was her name? I really wished that Wish was the romance that was supposed to be. Like, I've seen the clips and everything of everyone talking about Wish being like a romance film. Bring that back, please. Wish was atrocious, by the way. It was so bad. I can't even. It's so bad. What is her name though? That's how bad it is. I can't even remember the princess name. Asha. Her name is Asha. Okay. I'm going to talk about Wish because I genuinely believe that that's the worst. She's not even a princess. She's like a princess. She's doing an internship. That's the whole thing. Will this be spoilers? I don't fucking care. So Wish sucks. Okay. I wouldn't recommend watching it. If you don't have to, just don't worry about it. I promise you ain't going to be missing out on much. And it's supposed to be the 100th year like film or whatever. It's a disgrace. I'm just gonna say it. It's a disgrace. It's not good. And I tried to watch it high, and I couldn't even do it. I was too much, too bad. It was awful. I want more, I guess, from Disney. I really wish they would push the boundaries. I feel like, what was the last like really good Disney film? Was it Frozen? Not even Frozen 2, but Frozen. I'm not counting the Marvel films or the Star Wars films because I could tell that they're focused more on those. I think Frozen was the last really good Disney film, animated Disney film. Because the rest that I remember... Oh, you know what? No, Encanto was pretty good because that's not a Pixar film. Encanto was really good. But in terms of like having like a romantic film, like a film based on romance and stuff, Disney's really... No, they've been dropping the ball on that. Either making romance very, very secondary and just having like preaching, I guess, to the people as the film. That's exactly what Wish was. There wasn't even a romance in that film. They were just preachy, and oh my God, they talked about Pocahontas being preachy, but this one was just, and it was just terrible, and the jokes are bad. Oh my God. Except the only good thing I could say about Wish is Alan Tudyk. I don't care if he was a fucking goat. Alan Tudyk, I will never say anything bad in your name. You're amazing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this super huge long react that I did of one video. I unfortunately will not be streaming tomorrow because I'm leaving for a trip. So I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Is that everything? I think that's all my announcements. I will be back Tuesday because again, I'm going to be leaving for a trip. But like Tuesday, I'll be back with maybe a game. I kind of have so many reacts on the backlog. I still haven't seen the Minecraft because I'm trying not to spoil it. I haven't seen that. So yeah, I've still got some. I might do that for Tuesday because I'm going to be so tired from my trip. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday. Right? Yes. Is that right? Yeah. All right.